the beautiful thing of why this space exists is that Sophia and I are both forever students of life. We're students of all of our instructors that are here every week, every client that walks in the door. So we're always learning about ourselves and about this life, this world that we live in. And we realize that creating experiences for people to also be in that position where they're getting curious, they're having fun, they're connecting to themselves. That's the priority. And I don't believe that the journey ever ends. That's a lifelong process.
Welcome to the Fueling Fire podcast, another episode here. I think it's an exciting day. We have a ladies only episode, although all three of the dogs are also in the room. So I guess Dakota is going to go ahead and cancel that out for us. We have two amazing locals. They are just right down the road and they opened up a new studio here in Eagle, Colorado. So Sophia, Hannah, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello.
Hi.
Tell us about where you are.
Yeah, we're here in Eagle, Colorado, right down the road from Hailey. My name is Hannah.
I'm Sophia. We are co-owners of the Vitality Collective at 700 Chambers, Building C, Unit 3.
Yeah.
So it's also 704 Chambers. They switched the address, but some people find it easier if they go to 700. So either way, we're in a great square, a cool community of upcoming businesses that are opening right now. So it's really fun to be a part of this square, just in general. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the Vitality Collective, I think all of us know what the word vitality means. And that's one of the things that I feel like caught my eye when you initially reached out was like, ooh, vitality. Here at All Terrain, that's one of the things that we're trying to do is get people to live with vitality. So what exactly do you guys offer at the Vitality Collective?
Yeah, and I love vitality because I think people can define that in different ways for themselves. You learn what vitality means to you. And that's what we love about this space because we have quite the variety of offerings. So we have a weekly schedule that we follow. Hailey's actually one of our amazing instructors. She teaches bodyweight HIIT twice a week, but we also have Melt Method, which is Sophia's class, breathwork, meditation, different forms of yoga and functional movement. And we also offer workshops, variety of workshops, events, retreats, and able to rent the space as well if there's something that you would like to host here. Yeah.
What kind of workshops have you had already?
So far, we've had a macrame workshop. We've had some kids yoga classes, just like special kids yoga days. We have one coming up the day before Halloween. And then we've had a full moon circle that happened last month, which was a big hit. And then Hannah and I are actually hosting our first in-person workshop this Friday. And it is a cacao circle with breathwork and a sound bath. So we plan on having a bunch of other workshops as well. We really want to incorporate creativity. So creation of things such as macrame or jewelry making or things that inspire people to get creative. And then we also have such a big community in this area that we know of people who offer different types of movement, meditation, and things like that, and they're really talented at what they do, but don't necessarily have a space to do it in. So we're really looking forward to the variety of workshops that are coming up ahead. We want to do nutritional workshops, also, what is the word I'm looking for? Series as well. So the cool thing about our space, I think that both of us love the most is it's also so open-ended still. We just opened and we've had some amazing workshops, but there's so much more to be done here. And it's kind of just like an open book for people to bring in their passions and share vitality with each other.
Creative and collaborative.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the beauty of it there is that, defining it more as creative and collaborative and not only in the offerings that you have, but the people that you're bringing in as well, where it's whether that's instructors or someone who wants to create a workshop, but that's going to bring in the people that are drawn to that also have that creative sphere. And I think a lot of times fitness and movement in general kind of it doesn't seem so creative. It seems like you walk in and you follow whatever is happening, whatever the instructor is doing, and it's almost your time to check out. And I think it's really amazing that you two are really trying to bring that creative atmosphere in. And I think I said this in our initial meeting with each other in general. I was like, I'm not a creative person. Like I don't identify like that, and I think a lot of people can struggle with that as well. And we're trying to also redefine that word of like, let's collaborate, and creativity might look different to you, just as you were saying, vitality looks different to you. But I'd be kind of interested, especially with that word vitality, how would the both of you define that? Like, what does that mean to you?
I see vitality as that feeling when you wake up in the morning and you're energized, you're excited with what is about to happen. And even though you might have difficult things going on in your life, you have a sense of being in your body, being aware of how you can show up best for yourself, how you can show up best for others, and that you're committed to that practice every day.
What about you, Sophia?
I would say that vitality to me, there's a few different definitions in my mind and heart, but one of them, which is kind of the theme of our studio, is variety. I think that we can nourish ourselves in so many more ways than one. And when we do that, we feel next level in our lives. Like we're supporting our physical body by moving and getting stronger and more balanced. And then we're hydrating our tissue, and we're meditating and taking care of our minds and receiving, taking time to give back to ourselves. Life changes. And I think that that's what this space is to allow people to nourish themselves in more than one way, that is vitality to me.
I love that you brought up the fact of change. I was talking to one of our athletes yesterday. She's actually a newer mom. Sure, I think her son is right around 1 now. And that was one of the things she brought up with, and she used the word vitality as well, trying to live into that. And it was also being able to kind of ride the waves of that constant change and knowing and understanding that it is going to look different. And kind of what Hannah was saying, like we can look forward to those changes and the differences that come along with that, especially when we have the community and a place to collaborate there. And it sounds like that's something that the two of you have kind of been on this personal path, I'm assuming, for a while now, because usually, and Gary and myself, the whole reason that we developed All Terrain was because we saw the immense value that fitness and movement and nutrition and all of these things added to our own lives. And so it kind of had to start with us first before you then want to give back to others. So I'd just be interested in both of your journeys and processes. And, I'm sure it's not something that's just happened in the last year or two, but how movement or fitness or wellness, health, however you really want to define that, how that has shown up for you and your journey to even start the Vitality Collective in general.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing of why this space exists is that Sophia and I are both forever students of life. We're students of all of our instructors that are here every week, every client that walks in the door. So we're always learning about ourselves and about this life, this world that we live in. And we realize that creating experiences for people to also be in that position where they're getting curious, they're having fun, they're connecting to themselves. That's the priority. And I don't believe that the journey ever ends. That's a lifelong process. And I think both of us We've gone through a lot of emotional ups and downs, physical ups and downs with injury. We've also, just mental health in general can be a real struggle. So having a place where we have put together all of these different modalities that have served us and know that will serve other people, but to continue to be curious and see what shows up and what people are needing.
Yeah, I think that surprisingly, Hannah and I have experienced a lot of very similar things. We also have some differences as well of things that we're working on, but personally, being a college athlete, getting injured, not having the proper recovery tools, or knowing when to stop because of being pushed too hard, put me into a lot of pain and made me want to study the physical body, fascia, figuring out how to actually not just recover like post exercise, but how to become more balanced and work out better. So, like we can stretch or whatever after class or do whatever to like feel better. But there are so many modalities out there that actually help us way more than that. And that's kind of what took me to Melt Method and has changed my life. Because like I told you, I was running and couldn't run for a year, barely could walk after my last half marathon, didn't think I would ever run again. And Melt Method was the thing that got me out of pain. So sharing that is so powerful. I've gotten so many people who have debilitating back pain who it's literally gone. And if they have a time where their back goes out, they have the tools to bring them back within 2 days, which is not something that people realize exists, right? And so I guess my personal journey of pain, and Hannah can speak to her personal journey as well, but life isn't easy, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is that you're seeking. Usually it's really hard and you have to find answers yourself. And when you do, you should share them, because if they work, like other people need them too. And that's kind of the foundation of this space for me. I love to educate people on science and about their bodies and how to just carry themselves in a way where they're one with their body. They're not living outside of their body and hurting it more. Right? So,
well, I think the two of you can speak so much to the interconnection between our physical body and our mentality, and that those two things really can't be separated from one another. And I'm sure you guys have both seen that when someone is in physical pain, it's almost 100% that they're in some sort of mental turmoil also, and that it doesn't usually align one way or the other. And so one of the benefits that we see from athletes, no matter kind of what modality they're going into, is when they can get out of physical pain, that's really going to be the part that unlocks all of the mental aspects as well. And it sounds like you, Sophia, have found that through the Melt Method, which I'm going to just ask you to go into a little deeper on what exactly that is. And then, because I can definitely speak to the fact that I've only been trying it, maybe 2.5 months now, and I would fully agree with you that it's been absolutely life-changing. So I had never, ever heard of the Melt Method, and I had no idea what you were talking about. So what exactly is that? What do you do?
So people see our foam rollers and think, oh, it's a foam rolling class. I can just do that at home. I have a roller.
Yeah.
False. Very correct. I'm very passionate about that false, because people have no idea what it actually is. So I will explain it. Also, so we have a soft foam roller and a soft ball, and emphasis on soft is very important because most people use a hard roller, which is fine. It's not going to kill you, but you can't do the exercises that we're doing in this class on a hard roller, number one. I always tell people, do not try this at home if you have a hard roller, because you will hurt yourself. But basically the Melt Method was designed by Sue Hitzman. She's a genius with physiology and anatomy. She's been studying and dissecting humans for years, and watching like fascial trains and lines and how they connect and how your hip can take your shoulder out. And, you know, she's figured out how to assess your body and notice where you're holding stuck stress in your body just by laying on the ground. So the first part about melt method that I love is people get to identify where they're holding stuck stress. So that's super powerful, because if you know what's going on, then you have more opportunity to make a change. And I always say knowledge is power, right? We're familiar with that phrase.
Right.
So you start out with an assessment, you learn about yourself, where you're holding stuck stress. Then we go into some exercises that actually have nothing to do with foam rolling. You're laying on the roller on your spine, and you're engaging your nervous system, your rooted core, your deep stabilizer muscles that we never access, because everything we're doing in life is engaging the bigger muscle groups, which there's nothing wrong with strengthening bigger muscle groups. However, we always skip over the small stabilizers that really, those are the muscles that actually connect to our nervous system and are working with our brain directly to support our spine and our pelvis, and just allowing us to move better. So that's a part that people have no idea they're even going to access that. And they realize even just accessing your rooted core, you lay back down, your whole body is different, and you got stuck stress out just by waking up muscles that have been sleeping for perhaps your whole life. People who get pregnant, those muscles usually fall asleep again, right? Because there's a lot of pressure in there. If we have imbalances, we all have a dominant side of our body. So throughout our days, we're strengthening our imbalances. So this is breaking it back down and allowing you to balance more. So that's the first part. And then the second part, we do use the foam roller in a, gliding motion, which is kind of like rolling, but you're doing a lot smaller areas. And then you're shearing too, which is a totally different movement in the same spot to bring in fresh blood flow and hydration into the tissue. So by the time you're done with an hour, it goes by so fast. I think you guys can speak to that. But every class is different, and every time you take a class, you get to learn more about, oh wow, that move made a huge difference for me. I need to start doing that more. Or you just start to learn so much about yourself and empowering yourself, and the fact that you're not stuck. Because everyone thinks that they're stuck. As we get older, we think we're doomed because what was hurting before is now like killing us, and we don't think that we can actually make a change. And that's what this class is my favorite thing for people, is they wake up and they realize they totally have the power to make the change, and they're not doomed. It's actually quite the opposite.
Right. And I think it's, just as you were saying, really empowering. And that's a 1 hour class, and then, talk about doing that consistently, all of the change that you can find there. And just on a personal experience, I remember when we laid down for the initial class, and my 3 main like problem areas have always been, my shoulder sometimes bothers me. I am horrendous at breathing, and sorry, Hannah, I definitely still need you to help me with that. And then my hips. And that was really why I avoided running for the longest time, because I was like, my hips hurt, my shoulder hurt. Like whenever I would run, my hips would hurt. And then I couldn't get my breathing under control, so that it would make my shoulder feel like it was flipping. And Gary would always laugh at me, because I would tell him that it felt like there was an ice pick in my back. And I'm like, obviously when I'm running, like, I don't know why my shoulder is bothering me the most out of everything while I'm running. And I lay down for my first melt method class, and Sophia's going down, and she's like, we hold stress in 3 areas. And the 3 where she's like, your shoulder girdle, your diaphragm, and your pelvis. And I was like, very, very interesting parts of the body that you chose there. And it really is super interesting. And I think especially at the beginning, just doing those rooted core exercises is really, really empowering and life-changing. And I just completed my first half marathon and can say that not a single run was painful. And I think a lot of that had to do with I was showing up to Melt Method once or twice a week, specifically working on my feet, which was incredible. I always just thought it was I could never find a running shoe, or my feet just like weren't built for running. It was always one of those like identity based pieces. Like, well, I just can't, I'm just not. And I'm sure, I'm not the only one. I'm sure you've had many people walk into that exact same scenario where it's like, well, I just can't do that. And it's like, well, let's look at why. Why do you believe that? And what's kind of the root cause there? And how can we get you out of pain? Which is one of the biggest values I would say that we can give as coaches and in the space that we are, is really watching someone go through that shift.
Yeah, it makes me the happiest. Just I feel like I can't even tell you how many people have had these transformations, and it's just amazing that this method exists and that I get to teach it to people, because I love just helping people understand that they don't have to be in the pain that they're in, and that's like my life goal. Like, it's just the best thing to hear people have these amazing results.
Breakthroughs.
Yeah.
We have breakthroughs almost on the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people even get nauseous because they've never even connected to their rooted core, and their body's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but like, it's a big thing that's going on a very seemingly little level.
Yeah. Hannah, have you seen the same thing with breath work on your end, that it's elevated? Maybe it's gotten people out of pain if they came into pain, or what's kind of like the biggest thing people are seeking out almost when they're coming to a breathwork class?
Yeah, so we have two kind of different areas that we go into breathwork, especially here at the Vitality Collective. One is the performance and integrative breathwork patterns, which is understanding the mechanics of your breath, of your diaphragm, learning how to breathe correctly. Most people breathe incorrectly. We have a lot of chronic mouth breathers. We have a lot of over breathers. We have a lot of under breathers. So that's really, we work with a variety of breath patterns, breath holds. Breath holds are actually one of the most impactful things to learn how to have a CO2 tolerance if we're talking about athletic performance. So we live at a really high elevation, and I think a lot of people are looking to amplify their performance and utilize the mechanics of their breath. It's the only system in our body that is both conscious and unconscious. So you move throughout your day and you're unconsciously breathing and it's just supporting you. But then as soon as you tap in, tune in, and shift your breath, you're consciously breathing. And that's when we can really utilize and retrain our breath to help our performance on a really excellent level. And it's something that I know that every mountain athlete needs to be focusing on. And students here with that, in that regard, are starting to see how that's impacting them as they're cycling, that they're not feeling as fatigued as quickly. They're not out of breath as quickly. They can control and isolate their breath so that their endurance is much stronger. So it's a fascinating and much more scientific aspect of breath work. And then on the other side of it, we do meditative, continuous, conscious breathing. And that is more transformational breath work on the emotional level. So, Sophia's talking about stuck stress in the body. It's very similar with your breath. We hold on to stress, emotions, memories, trauma in the physical body. And so doing different types of breath patterns over an extended period of time not only allows us to reconnect to our physical body, but it also allows us to release and process things that we have stuck in the system. And that's really moving from that, working with the nervous system also, like mouth. They're very similar. They overlap in a lot of ways. So moving from that sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic. So the fight or flight into the rest and digest. And there's not a single aspect of life that learning how to regulate your nervous system can't help. Whether that's working out in the gym and focusing, in the workplace, when you're managing family and children or whatever it is, learning how to regulate your nervous system and process those emotions. And those can be some more vulnerable classes, much more emotional. But yeah, so kind of it touches on a lot, but it's definitely what we're seeing most of right now.
One that we were actually just talking about, because one of the biggest questions we get at All Terrain is, what should I be doing for rest and recovery? And it's funny because I feel like sometimes we don't give the answer that people are looking for these very fancy, big solutions. And when you bring it back to breathing, and like oxygen is free, it is here for all of us. And it's the biggest tool. We don't need any equipment. It's all right here. And like you were saying, not only physically, but mentally, it's going to be one of those easiest ways to unlock your performance if that's what you're looking for. And once you do that, it's almost going to your default mode. So if you are a person like myself who tends to be a little more high anxiety and gets to that like fight or flight tense up stage pretty easily, even when it's like not something that seems that it should put you in that situation, when you actively put yourself in scenarios that you are trying to downregulate, you're focusing on that breath, it starts to become your default in those later situations where it's like, I'm not defaulting to clamming up anymore. And it's something that I've personally done more so with cold exposure, doing cold showers, cold tubs that way. And I will definitely be the first to admit that I've shied away from the breath work solely because it's so uncomfortable. And as you were saying, it's very, very vulnerable. And it's really that mental side and that mental aspect that I think can give us the fulfillment as a coach and as a teacher, and to really see someone go through that. But how exactly did you get into that work, or why did you see it provide so much value to you initially before you decided to give that back to other people? How did it show up in your life?
So I've been teaching yoga meditation for a long time and been a student of yoga and meditation for a long time. And I have dealt with some pretty intense, heavy mental health fluctuations throughout my life since I was a child. And I was at a point a few years ago where I was in a pretty rough spot navigating my own inner landscape, my own emotionality, and dealing with some trauma that needed to be released from the body. And it just so happened that a friend of mine sent me a link to a transformational breathwork recording. And I was like, why the heck not? And it was, I think, 45 minutes long of breathing. And I was alone in my bedroom, and I got people, and breathwork, like, yeah, it's vulnerable. It's kind of scary. It's a little, it's uncomfortable. And so I had the claw hands, my lips came together, and I was numb. I was crying. And I came out of it and felt like I had lost like 10 pounds of emotion off of my body. And, like I saw the light shining through my bedroom window. It was brighter. I looked at my dog, and like I could connect with him more. You know, it was just and it sounds funny, but I just felt more like myself. And I'm like, well, there's something here that I need to explore. So
yeah,
I just noticed it in the first time that I tried the transformational breath work. And then as I continued to learn about it, I realized that we have an epidemic of breathing incorrectly because of the society that we live in, because we live in fight or flight. So many of us are in that constant state of stress. And I really don't want to see people living in that state so often and learning how to regulate. So people just like me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to create anything, like that's, I think, entrepreneurship in general, you have to go through some sort of struggle to want to give that value and impact to other people. So I'd be interested. I mean, you guys, I know we're still pretty new at the Vitality Collective, only been open, what is it, fully 2 months now? Yeah. What do you think has been the most valuable piece of opening this community so far? And where can you see it going?
Well, I have to say that I think the most valuable thing that I've experienced coming to the classes and just being in the community that has gravitated towards us so far, and just seeing that what I'm gaining from this space by coming to this variety of classes, others are gaining too. So like our vision is actually coming to life because every instructor that we have here is so quality. I mean, you don't go to one class and not leave feeling like you had some kind of experience or you learned something about yourself or you pushed yourself or, you know, it's just the quality of what we have here is so amazing that it's exactly what we wanted it to be. And it just makes me so happy that like people value it as much as we do. So that's kind of been my experience. I mean, even me, like I'll go to a HIIT class, your class, it'll kick my ass, excuse my language. And then literally my butt is so sore the next day and then I'm melting with you guys. So I get to recover and then get to like take a breathwork or meditative yoga class and go through like an intentionally slow movement and meditation. And then, you know, playing sound bowls and doing yoga fusion. I mean, like the list goes on. In 1 week, the amount of things you can do and just nourish yourself. It's actually crazy. I was in awe when we opened that I was able to experience that in my own freaking place. You know, like I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
We did it for ourselves first.
But if we feel that way, others do too, right? Like we need it. We needed this.
Well, I think that's what, you know, we're saying it has to start with in any idea. And I think that's where the three of us have all noticed that movement, we feel better when we're moving. We feel better when we're nourishing our body with the appropriate things. We feel better not just physically, but mentally, and that those things can't really be removed from one another. But you guys both came together and created something new, which also is very scary. And diving into the unknown and kind of has this discomfort that a lot of people view fitness or changing something health-wise in their life. So, you know, Gary and I were kind of discussing it because I feel like he's lived in the world of entrepreneurship his whole life. That is very much his realm and how he functions. For me, it was very different. I was like very type A person. Let me go down the path. I don't want to stray from my path. Same with fitness, like whatever you wrote down, this is exactly what I need to do. And couldn't really get off of that. But I truly think that movement and nutrition and finding your health and entrepreneurship and wanting to give back value really run on the same pathway. Is that something you guys have seen or would agree with?
Yes. I think that every day when, as an entrepreneur or a business owner or whatever it is you're doing, you have to show up for yourself first. And I think that's why we choose, obviously, fitness. And if you don't, your business isn't going to run. If you are not putting your mask on first, you cannot help others. And I think that starting a business like this is the ultimate practice of self-care because it forces you to show up for yourself in ways that otherwise you might slide by and not have to. I think people experience that with children as well. This is our baby. You know, and it's its own entity. It's its own energy. Like you come in here and yes, it's us, but it's everything. It's everything that everyone else that walks in these doors is creating, and we're having conversations. And if you're not taking care of yourself, not focusing on what makes you better every day, then you can't move forward with whatever you're creating.
Yeah, I think that being an entrepreneur or a business owner is definitely not for the faint-hearted, because even Hannah and I, like, we have such a strong practice of self-awareness and like working through things, you know, and it never stops. That journey never stops because business is going to throw at you things that you didn't know were coming, things that you had like self-doubt, fear, all those things, right? Those are born to come up when you do something that is different. And you have to have that foundation of belief and self-love and trust that overpowers those thoughts to get you through and keep going. And to be honest, I don't know how business owners do it without a space that provides that. Like, we're so lucky that we have these tools to go to. Like, oh, I'm feeling fear or doubt today. I go to this class and I'm like leaving feeling empowered again, right? Just for my own space. So it's like helping us be business owners just by being in this place, you know. But it can be challenging, but it's also so amazing.
Fast track personal development.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're all lucky because we, just as you were saying, we live in our businesses as taking care of ourselves. You know, it's like that's part of what we do. But I think some of the biggest value, and I don't know if you guys have seen it throughout your work as well, but at All Terrain, one of the most exciting, I guess, like transformations that we see is people can really almost get out of looking at their goal. And for us, it's usually, you know, weight loss or building strength or something else kind of more aesthetically goal oriented. And that kind of is the initial starting point. And then once they go through and they understand that it's so much more, and as we've kind of been talking about with that physical, when you can connect to your physical body, you can really start to see all of the mentality shifts elevate there. And you see them go and do things outside of your space and outside of your realm, outside of fitness, that they would have never, ever done before. Where it's like we've had people come in and they're like, hey, I just asked my boss for a raise. I would have never like felt worthy of asking for more because I always thought that, like, you know, I was stuck in my own self-shame. Or hey, I just decided to like elevate my marriage, or, you know, we were able to have this really tough conversation that we were avoiding for a really long time. And I would have never done it without X, Y, or Z. And I think that's the most value that we get out of coaching is when we can see something that it's outside of the physical changes. And yes, it's amazing to get someone out of pain so that they can do daily activities and, you know, be able to spend time with their family and community. But I think it's when you start to see them do things that are outside of the realm of movement, that you would have thought you had no impact on them at all. And you're like, they come back to you and it's almost like, it still to me, every time it happens, I'm like, you're thanking me? What? I did what? Because it really is, as we were saying, life-changing. And I think, you know, taking care of yourself, and as you were saying, putting yourself first, putting your mask on first, and ensuring that if you can be comfortable in your physical being, then that's going to be the only way to unlock you to go to everywhere else you want to go.
Right. Well, it gets me thinking about the like guilt and shame cycle that we go through when we are feeling not good, right? Because pain feels bad. Then a lot of times when we're in pain, we do things that cause more pain. It's a weird thing that everyone has done.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe we eat worse because we have a stomach ache and like we feel hopeless that we're going to get out of pain. So we're like, screw it, whatever. And it becomes self-sabotage. Every single human being has done it. And there's nothing wrong with it as long as we can see, like, where am I right now? And the second that we start feeling better, going back to the word vitality, right? Like, the second you start feeling better physically and mentally, all of a sudden your standard for yourself changes because you're holding yourself to a higher standard, but also you're just feeling good and you're radiating this new energy that is yours and you did it yourself, which then empowers you to have this more, what's the word I'm looking for? Confidence in yourself. So you can ask for the raise, or you can do those things, and you could say no when you feel like saying no instead of like having healthy boundaries. All of it comes together. It just, like you said, it's like a trickle effect or this cycle. We're either in the guilt and shame and pain loop, or we're starting to loop into, wow, I feel really good. How can I maintain this? This is actually like gold. How can I hold on to this feeling and make it grow?
Right.
I wanted to say, because Hailey, knowing some of your clients, I think what's beautiful about what we're all doing here is we get to become a part of people's support system. Oftentimes when you are in that state of guilt and shame and feeling like you just aren't yourself, you isolate. And the beauty in asking for help, asking for support, knowing that you are a resource. The Vitality Collective is a resource, and you don't have to do it alone. You can't, you have to surround yourself with people and experiences that push you and elevate you in order to get out of your quote unquote stuckness. So being a part of people's support system is truly the biggest gift. And knowing what that has meant to me in the past, to have a support system and people like that, it's changed my life. So I think we always say, let us be a part of your support system. Like, let us in, come to us.
Right.
That's what we're here for. And
I think people can also tell when people say that, I'm here for you. And you're like, cool. Or, they can actually feel the genuineness of like, I feel loved and supported in this community. And I think it's also like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode that, life, the only thing about life that's consistent is that it's going to change over and over again. And I think surrounding yourself with the right people, but then also understanding it's like we have ourselves and our own being, and we have the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, and knowing that at times we may have to draw on one of those things a little more than others. So at times we can be the pillar of strength for other people, and we feel really solid in our everyday actions and what we're, like Sophia was saying, emitting out. So when we're kind of taking care of ourselves throughout these practices of prioritizing the things that are going to make us feel better, we're able to magnetize to other very like-minded people who are also doing that same thing. So that in turn, when naturally we don't feel that way on a certain day, we've all been there. It's not like we're just, again, like held up there forever. We're surrounded by these people who now they're your pillars, and it's literally just like shifting the energy here or there. And it reminds me why Gary, when I very first met him, it was like, I think one of the first things he ever sent to me, and why I was like, I'll probably marry this person eventually. But it was a quote of, you have to be the person that you're looking for is looking for. And I think that can go in relationship and in friendship and whatever you're doing is like, if we're trying to build these healthy habits and be that person for someone to lean on, we have to be that person that those really amazing people are looking for, because that's who they're surrounding themselves with. So we have to, like, if we want to grow and be a part of that community, we need to go through that self-healing and be working on ourselves as well. And so I think that's what people can do at the Vitality Collective. And I think that's what people are learning through All Terrain Fitness. And I think it's really beautiful that if you looked outwardly, I would say our two businesses can look very different on like, we're the like muscly weightlifting people, and it gets that whole side. And there's stereotypes everywhere. And there's also stereotypes in the yoga world and restoration and like woo-woo being on that realm. But I think it's really great that our values, and this is what happened when we initially met a little over 2 months ago, is like the values are aligned. And when like we don't need to be the exact same. And these are the people that I feel like we need to elevate in the health and wellness space and sphere are the ones that are elevating the world around them, outside them, and really ensuring that we're looking holistically at people. So I'm just super, super appreciative of you guys and everything that you've done.
Thank you. And we actually are also very appreciative of you. You bring a really special element to our team and what we offer here that is more fiery and allows people to really, get stubborn and like channel their grit, which is also just as important as meditation. Like it really is. And so it's really fun to have your element of strength and cardio and just like that fieriness that is also so important to the team.
Balance, right. Baby.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to the way we define things. Like at the beginning of, how we define vitality, I think you can go deeper into how we define strength, and that it is looked at initially as kind of this like person who can lift a lot of things. And it's actually really, I hadn't even thought about this until now. My very first tattoo I ever got on my 18th birthday, shout out to mom and my sister, it's the word strength tattooed on my wrist. And I remember almost feeling a little self-conscious about it because I was trying to explain to them, I mean strong, but not strong in like a strong way. Like strong, I look at my mom and my family as such pillars of strength, because being like a pillar of a strength that they don't waver, not like how much weight they can actually hold and show. And I think that's just one of the beauties of language in general, and how we can redefine vitality, redefine strength, redefine what's meaningful to us, and know that it may show up one way during certain points of our lives and other ways somewhere else. So I think that's a really beautiful aspect of it.
Agreed.
Awesome. I also wanted to add on what you said about just like who you surround yourself with. And I want people to know that, like, well, first of all, it is true. We are who we surround ourselves with. So that's like a very simple way of putting it, right? We influence each other in our choices and actions when we surround ourselves by each other. But I do want to encourage people that if they aren't, even if they feel like they're not there yet, still surround yourself with those people, because that's what's going to get you there. So you don't have to be there yet. I know a lot of people who sometimes are scared to take that step because they're like, oh, these people have it dialed, like I don't, and I'm in this really dark place. But that's like what this is for. That's what people who have done the work are for, is to help. That's what they want to do. They want to share it with you. They want to welcome you wherever you're at. And the most important thing is take the step. If you want to change how your life is and you want to surround yourself with new people, everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be, and they're here for each other. And so I really want to say that, because I want people to feel like they can come in even if they have never taken a yoga class or never taken a HIIT class. Like, you help them, you meet them where they're at, and like help them be safe. And we all do that. So
come as you are, no judgment.
Yeah.
Yep. One of the things we like to say is always meet yourself where you are. And I think that's also like a daily, hour by hour type situation and scenario.
Minute by minute.
Yeah. I think where it's like, we've kind of said, the people who do the work, there's times where it feels like, you may fit into this fitness health atmosphere. You may feel like you really like haven't even tried to dip your toe in it at all. And it's like, no matter where you are on your journey, that it's like whatever little next step you want to take, it will be scary. And as we've all seen, like, we just need to overcome that initial impact of fear, and surround ourselves with the right people while we're doing it. And almost that like fake it till you make it, like, I'm going to be around these people and then maybe it'll just like through osmosis come through me. And you really do start to notice it, but it's meet you where you are, because no matter what your background is, no matter where you think you would be, what you identify or don't identify as, those can become really limiting, or it can become the chance for you to look at possibility. So I think Sophia is totally right that, give yourself a little bit of grace. Like, you may attempt one of these things also, and it may not go so hot the first time. And it may be scary. It may be uncomfortable. It may be very different and seem like, I don't know about that. But stick with it. Stick through that discomfort for a little bit, because that's where the growth is going to come out of it. And again, meet you where you are, day by day, minute by minute. Sometimes we're just having an off day. I think all of us can assume that that's happened many a times.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, resistance is a great teacher.
What were you saying?
I was saying that resistance is a great teacher.
Oh, yes. I like that quote. I feel like that needs to be on something.
Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode and took away some value that will amplify your life. But if you are ready to become an all-terrain human yourself, then click the link below to head over to our Facebook group to receive a copy of our all-terrain body blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life. These 5 pillars will show you how to speed up your metabolism at any age and eat for your specific metabolic needs so you can obtain your ideal composition without eliminating foods and spending all day in the gym. So if you're ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and fire for life, then click the link below and head over to the All Terrain Fitness Mentality and Fat Loss Facebook group to pick up a copy of the All Terrain Body Blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life, and we will see you on the inside.
I feel like I'm like full of quotes, but we like to ask every guest that comes in. Again, we've kind of been talking about like how we define words, and it's always really interesting to see how people define being an all-terrain human. So how would the two of you, knowing the company and the what you've seen through Gary and I, what you've seen throughout the process in general, how would you define being an all-terrain human?
Well, I think that I would define it just based on what you guys are doing and what you've done for a lot of people that I know very closely, and even just being around you, for me too. Elevating life, working on diving deeper into yourself, your strengths, also obviously your weaknesses, because you have to do that in order to find your strengths. But elevating life, I think, is the most thing, like reaching your goals, finding goals you didn't even know you had, living a better life, and just making different choices and learning that anything that you desire is possible.
Love it.
That's great.
All-terrain fitness. I do see it as such, no matter what life gives you, no matter what is up ahead, you train people to show up for themselves and to, weather the storm, to do it for themselves, but also do it for others. And just to keep trying and to push a little harder, because if you want to squeeze all of the juice out of the lemon, you gotta go for it.
You do gotta go for
flag. You have that flag in your gym that says, keep going. Nobody cares.
Work harder.
Yep.
I have to say that Alex, my husband, has been working with you, Hailey, specifically. He was like, I want to be the man version of Hailey. And, for
you have to be blonde, Alex. Sorry.
No, but for the last year, he was a college athlete. He's very strong, and he's got a lot of energy. He's a talent, but he's been looking for someone to help him reach his goals and get back on track. And I've never seen him this motivated and inspired ever since I've known him. There's something that you're doing that's sustainable and keeping people accountable. And I think that's really, it's just so cool to watch with him, because a lot of times he'll pick one thing and then another thing, but he's so focused. When you're out of town, you went to your garage and still worked out, and I saw that flag, and I was like, he's pushing himself so hard. And I'm like, in a good way though. His mental health it's just so cool to see, in my own home, how much you're affecting him. And it's the way that you do it. I don't know what it is, but it's working.
It's so funny. We had a meeting with all of the all-terrain coaches yesterday, and we were trying to, as the boys call it, figure out what the special sauce is. That they were like, people just keep talking about this. I'm like, you guys would word it as the special sauce. Super creative over there. But it was we were just trying to come up with what is this threshold that people are crossing over? And I'm sure you guys see it as well, where it's really, really hard to put that change and the shift that you see people go through into words, because it seems like that change is so immediate, they woke up or turned on the lights or something, but at the same time, it's this very, very gradual thing. So we were really struggling on how to define it, but I think it's one of the things that we can all kind of connect on, that you've seen someone go through that transformative experience, and it's really hard to put into words what it means to be on the outside of it.
I think that a word that comes to mind is people realize it's sustainable. It's not one of those goals that they can lose sight of in 1 month. They're realizing that this is actually a lifestyle adaptation that they can adopt long term, which then inspires them and keeps them going. I think that's a big part of it.
Almost like attainability. And I think we used to see it when I was teaching a lot, and I'm trying to remember the exact verbiage we used, but it's basically, and with any goal or anything, it's like when something is so far-fetched, it's like, okay, there's no motivation. I can't see myself ever getting to this. It seems impossible. It seems like there's no way, like that intervention, there's no way I could do any of those things. But it's like we need to, it can't be so easy that it's like, this is boring. There's also nothing that we're going to stick with that way. So we have to find this middle ground where it's like a far enough reach, but it doesn't feel so impossible that you might as well not even try. So I feel like it's sustainability, and then also like having attainability too. Like you can see it. I don't even know if that's a word, attainability, but I'm gonna make it one.
Yeah, sure. I think it sounds great.
I love it. Before we close out, I just want to give you guys an opportunity to let people know again where exactly to find you, how they can sign up for classes, social media, basically anything and everything about the Vitality Collective. Because if you are local to Eagle County, you need this in your life.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're located on Chambers. If you know where the climbing gym is in Eagle, we're in the same exact parking lot area. You can find us at thevitalitycollective.com. On our website, we have our schedule and offerings. And then we also have an Instagram and Facebook page. Our Instagram handle is the.vitality.collective. And we're constantly keeping updates on our weekly schedule and events on there as well. And then, you can schedule online through MindBody or our actual website, and you can buy any package that you want. So we have memberships, punch cards. We have a 2-week intro offer for $39, unlimited classes. And we pretty much have every kind of membership that you would want, if it's a punch card or a membership. And then what else? Anything? I think you nailed it. Okay. Yeah.
There we go. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining, and thanks everyone else for listening. That's all we have for this episode. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. See ya.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys later.